our students are dealing with these social justice issues, and it is shaping their mind for the future and how they're going to approach and tackle life. We've got to make sure we give them the platforms that they want to really activate their voice so that they can inspire some true change around this whole topic.
Well, welcome back and thanks for tuning in to this edition of Leading Through Unprecedented Times. I'm Tom Murray, your host, and I am so fired up to have the one and only Marlon Styles. And I know he's going to say it, the proud superintendent of Middletown City Schools in Ohio. Marlon, you are our very first guest on the podcast, and I'm so excited in this episode because we are going to be flashing back to two of the things you said last April. Marlon, welcome back. How you doing, my friend?
Oh, life is good here in Middletown City School District, Tom. Thanks for having us back. Excited to have some conversation today.
Now, I got to throw this out here, Marlon. You've had a real big 10 months here. I'm going to throw it out because I know it's not something you would mention, but you were recently also named the National Superintendent of the Year by Education Dive. So first, on the podcast, on behalf of Future Ready Schools, I want to say congratulations. So incredibly dynamic in the work you're doing. Some of the things we'll dive in today about how you're breaking down barriers for your students around equity and opportunities and those kinds of things. So congratulations, my friend. I know you're a humble guy, and I know you're going to turn it over and say, well, my team, we know that because that's who you are. It's also that sign of the incredible leadership. Give us some update. What's going on in Middletown City? Here we are. We had you on about 10 months ago. You know, we were only a few weeks into the pandemic then. Let's fast forward now 10 months. How are things going in Middletown City Schools? What are some things that you guys are working on?
Life has been great here in Middletown. We've been celebrating collectively as a district that big award the district got. What's happening right now, we just continue to stay focused on service. And we talk about it pretty frequently here. How can we better service our community? How can we better service our students? And how can we better collaborate and lean on each other through these difficult times? We're taking advantage of every opportunity we can to give kids a platform to activate their voice and give them opportunities that they need. I know we'll dig into that later. But really, it's just been about the culture of people here throughout our city, rallying together as we see the light at the end of the tunnel right now for this pandemic that we're all facing. We could not do it without each other. So really, it's just been service, and making sure we're there for each other each step of the way.
Yeah, you know, Marlon, one of the reasons we asked you to be one of our Future Ready advisors is because of the human element that you value so much. And it's just so evident in all the work that you are constantly talking about your people. And I knew you'd throw it out there that this award wasn't about you. And I know that's your humble servant mindset. But you do have an incredibly strong team there. I've seen them in action there in Middletown City. I want to flash back here, if we could, to you just mentioned the word opportunities. And last year, 10 months ago, there we were a few weeks into the pandemic. I asked you about the obstacles that you were facing, and you took that and you twisted the question to one that's more appropriate, that really shows how you view your leadership lens. So let's go ahead and flash back to that moment in time about 10 months ago. Let's take a listen. Talk for just a few moments on the obstacles that you're facing. You're an urban district. You've got a very high need district, and you know it's no secret. No two districts are alike. We've all got unique communities. So, what are some of the major obstacles that you've been facing, especially in the past couple of weeks, and how are you all working to overcome them?
Yeah, you heard me talk before about mindset and staying positive. So when I hear obstacles, I like to, and you've trained me to think this way, Tom, give yourself credit. I like to think of them as opportunities to provide. As you think about what our students need right now, it's our responsibility right now to provide for them. So we are working as hard as we can each day to make sure our students' basic needs are being met. That's our priority. E-learning is not our priority right now. Making sure our kids are taken care of, that's our priority. So we've got a large-scale food distribution plan right now that we're looking as an opportunity to provide for our kids. We're averaging about 20,000 plus meal bags a week. It consists of breakfast and lunch to provide to all of our students, being in a 100% free reduced lunch rate district. So we're excited to know that we have staff volunteers, community volunteers coming out of the woodworks to support 30 different distribution sites for our students to get them food, which is a basic necessity right now. So Some may think it's an obstacle. I look at it as an opportunity to provide. We're exploring some other things as well, but that's one thing we're really proud of, that we're really fighting right now to take advantage of an opportunity to provide just basic necessities, food, hygiene, to our families as much as we can. And the community is stepping up to support us and partner with us. And that just makes it even sweeter to know that we're all hands on deck doing this together.
Marlon, I have chills listening to that flashback there. And I think back, it brings us back to what was only 10 months ago, yet we can all remember the fear, the anxiety, the unknown, are we only going to shut down for a couple weeks? Is it going to be a month? Is it going to be the rest of the school year? I'm not sure any of us would have guessed. Here we sit 10 months later in the middle of the next school year, with many places still having remote learning, some with in-person, some with hybrid. And talk to us about the opportunities you're seeing now. Obviously, in reflecting back, that was only a couple weeks into the pandemic when we filmed that. And you were talking about, this is about feeding kids. This is about the basic needs. Talk to us and just kind of think through the last 10 months and how that's evolved for you and where you are now.
We have taken advantage of the opportunities to provide here in the district collectively as a village, right? It takes a village, no matter what stage you are in life. Through this pandemic, the last 10 months, we've taken advantage of every opportunity we can. We're continuing to feed students. We have hot spots in 100% of our households. So students are connected outside the walls of the school. In the urban district, we've taken our one-to-one environment, grades 1 through 12, and all those devices, 6,000 plus, are going home with kids every single day. And guess what, education? They come back to school every single day and they're working just fine. The kids are able to log in when they get back into the school building. But beyond just what we're doing here and now, we continue to talk about opportunities for, as you say, what's next. What's next for us is how can we leverage what we've learned and how we've upskilled ourselves constructionally to really think about what we can do for students beyond the pandemic. Right now, this pandemic has trained us to think about the here and now to get through the pandemic. In our district right now, as we talk about opportunities to provide, we're thinking about how can we better educate kids come August of 2021. Let's get past the pandemic. We're focused on what's next for us. And that's several different pieces. How can we continue to shut down that homework gap come August of 21 once this pandemic is over with, to make sure kids can learn in and outside of the classroom at all times. Something we're pretty passionate about, an opportunity back 10 months ago to address the homework gap, an opportunity for the next 10 years to make sure that we keep kids connected.
Yeah, absolutely. And you've been such a staunch advocate for that. And here we are, fast forwarding 10 months. We've had the election. We have a new president, which also means we have a new FCC commissioner, at least acting at this point, somebody that we both know, Jessica Rosenwurzel, who is a staunch advocate when it comes to closing that homework gap. And so we do see some help on the way there. One of the things, though, in talking about opportunities that I saw recently on social media, I saw Middletown City Schools sharing out on social media. It was a picture and you had your sleeve rolled up, and there it looked like you had organized and kind of leading the way there, but you had organized for your staff around the vaccine. And let's face it, this has been such a hot topic. Here we are 10 months later, prioritizing teachers and staff, and states are really all over the place and what that looks like. But then I see picture after picture of your staff coming together, and that doesn't just happen by chance. I don't think CVS just calls you and says like, hey, let's just vaccinate everybody in one shot, right? Because people around the country, especially educators, are really looking for that safety net and certainly need and deserve that. Talk to us about, the vaccine piece that you were able to organize, what that looked like, and maybe even how that came about.
Educators are on the front line right now. They've been on the front line since March of 2020. We're still on the front line. This nation is so passionate right now. We all should be, and I am too, about getting all of our kids back to school full time, where they enjoy school and they enjoy being with our educators. For us, we really started working with our health department around the possibility of getting vaccines accessible to our staff. That happened right around Christmas. Jackie Phillips, our city health commissioner, her and I were talking one afternoon, I think it was a Sunday afternoon in December, about the possibility of it. We went right into planning mode, and we really started to leverage our partnership about how we can get our hands on vaccines for our staff. As you talk about the most critical people right now in this country, at the top of that list, near the top, I should say, are educators, so we can get our kids back to school. So for us, it really was about giving our staff an added layer of safety inside of our protocols. We started to think about how we can get our kids back to school. Really was about people, as we continue to say. So we gave our staff the opportunity to volunteer to sign up for the COVID-19 vaccine. We had about 65% of our staff take advantage of the vaccine just a short while ago. It was the happiest day, I should say, that I've seen in this district in a long time from the adults. You saw people smiling, excited, just that relief for whatever personal reasons they may have. It was great to see people excited, some newfound energy in the room, knowing that the added layer of safety was there. But I must say, Tom, if you know me, I'm going to say something on the national level. We got lucky. And not everyone has been as lucky as us to have access to the vaccine to the degree that we had it a few weeks ago. So I'll support my colleagues and superintendents and educators across this country saying that we have to be a priority in the United States of America to get our staff vaccinated all across this country if we want students to come back to school full time. It's a necessity. It has to be a priority, and our kids are definitely worth it.
Absolutely. And I know your superintendent colleagues are fighting hard around the country. And you're right. Some haven't had the ability or the luck that you've had in that regard. And so on one hand, kudos for coordinating that effort. And again, focusing on your people and giving them the option, the opportunity there. But then on the second side, recognizing that other people are doing the same and haven't had the same outcomes yet. And absolutely teachers being seen as those first responders and certainly deserve that safety net there as well. So I want to flash back here again to something else that you said, and you actually just started to touch on it a little bit again regarding the opportunity side of things. I want to talk about equity. When I think about superintendents that are just such staunch advocates, you can see the lens, the equity lens that you have. It's something that I asked you about that 10 months ago. And there's something that a lot has happened in your world as well since that time. Let's go back, if we could, and watch just a quick clip on equity when I asked you about that 10 minutes ago. Let's take a listen here if we could.
You know, you have been such a staunch advocate for equity and such a staunch advocate for many of your students as well, having a high need district that are either traditionally marginalized in the past in certain groups, or that maybe they aren't connected, or maybe they're missing out on opportunities. And I know you are one to believe that all means all, and you started to touch on it around feeding kids and those kinds of things. But what does equity look like, and what are you really working for to make sure that our most at-risk students are front and center of the work and the decisions we're making right now? What's that look like at a crisis like this does?
Well, you got me all fired up right now with this question. Probably need to do a couple push-ups real quick to push out some of this energy right now on this topic. But for me, if I could keep it real for just a moment on this topic, let's talk about fact. Fact is that this is a conversation that's been around for a long time. We as a society have just refused to acknowledge and accept the realities of an equity gap that exists in this country. And if there's one bright spot with this whole circumstance of schools being shut down, it's the fact that the equity gap's on center stage. So what we're fighting for right now is the basic fact that not every student in our district is logged in with e-learning right now. A lot of our students are logged out. Basically what I mean by that is they either don't have a device and or they don't have the internet at home to be able to access e-learning. So the wonderful opportunities that we're able to provide through the technology that we have accessible in our district, the digital platforms, the activities teachers are dreaming up, which are fantastic, don't get me wrong, but we lose sleep at night knowing that not all of our students are logged in right now. As a matter of fact, a lot are logged out. So we are kicking on doors, screaming and shouting as much as we can, as I know a lot of educators across this country are, about the fact that the internet should no longer be a utility. Let's just put an end to that conversation, and let's make sure all kids have internet access and a device at home so that they can continue their learning. That's the most important piece. So I challenge society, I challenge the federal government, whoever we need to challenge right now, is to find a way to provide internet access to students in their home across this country during any type of school shutdown, and preferably long-term. Make sure they've got internet and broadband access in their homes when the school year starts, so that learning can be extended in the home outside the school day.
So Marlon, that was 10 months ago. Those were those words as you were processing. You said how many students you had logged out. Now, let me fast forward a little bit past that. You found yourself testifying before Congress, and I believe was the very first remote testimony. I also believe, my friend, that it may have been the first testimony in front of Congress where somebody wasn't wearing shoes because they were behind their desk and Zooming, right? I believe. And then fast forward again, I see you in the news yet again in front of the Ohio legislature, fighting for the budget, fighting for the way things are funded for students, all around equity. And so you've been in the news a lot, my friends, is saying, hey, like, we will not back down because our kids really do deserve in this area, and really pointing at all the inequities that have existed. I mean, let's face it, COVID didn't create equity issues. It really amplified equity issues that have always existed and still exist to this day. But also you've prioritized and continue to do things about it, like the connectivity. So talk to us now, fast forward 10 months, where are you with some of those pieces you mentioned earlier about the connectivity, about the devices with those students, but then also even just inequities that you see that we still have to continue to really stare it through the face of it and say, we're gonna figure out how to do this. Talk to us about that, if you would.
Equity at the core of everything we do. Our agenda here in Middletown City School District, equity centered. Our outcomes, equity centered. Everything we do centered around equity for all students. You asked a couple of key questions here. So what's next for us around this topic, and what does it look like? We've landed hotspots for our students. Check. Very excited about that. We're proud that we've got students to have hotspots. We still have an equity problem, right? The data gaps that come with those hotspot plans are an issue. Our students are running out of data, quality data, high speed data pretty fast, just given what our instructional activities are requiring them to do. Beyond that, you brought up the idea of funding. We know historically in Ohio, and probably across this country, historically, our most marginalized students continue to be underfunded. What does that look like? We talked about opportunities before. They're missing out on opportunities of a lifetime simply because our federal government, our legislators here in the state of Ohio, are not prioritizing our most neediest students. We've got studies taking place here in Ohio that are really challenging. Credit to the educators and treasurers on the Fair School Funding work group here in Ohio for really putting equity at the center of their funding plan. We want 100% fully fund economically disadvantaged students across this entire state. They want to truly study what does it take to fund and educate a student, what resources do they need? And that's at the core of the funding structure itself. But last but not least, before I close out on this topic, Tom, you asked about equity and what does it look like? I'll give you a perfect example, if you don't mind. The Alliance for Excellent Education recently came out with an article, and you know this article very, very well, right? When equity is optional. A fantastic title for the article. As you dig into the data found in that article specific to Ohio, 82% of white students in the state of Ohio attend a top-rated school. 4% of Black students in the state of Ohio attend a top-rated school. 52% of Black students in the state of Ohio attend an F-rated school. We can't even talk about equity right now because there are a lot of systemic inequities that our Black and brown students are facing here in the state of Ohio and across this country. Right now, the priority should be on getting these students the resources they need so they can make their dreams come true. Right now, we have opportunities for some. A dream of all of ours in education is that we have equity for all.
Marlon, so well said. And yeah, when we were working through that report, the inequities at a systemic level just stare you in the face. And just hearing you cite our statistics from Ohio, you know, it shows that this isn't some nice little add-on, put on the front burner for a little bit, check the box type thing. We need to address it systemically. And another area that I'd love to touch on, one more if we could, you know, you have been such a staunch advocate as well around social justice. And as a Black male superintendent, you've faced barriers that others haven't. And with that, you've also been outspoken. I think back to last July in our country with some of the national media, some of the social justice movements, and you've been very outspoken about that. Talk to us, if you could, around social justice, give advice to your superintendent colleagues that may be listening, or principal colleagues may be listening, where you haven't been afraid to take a stand. And for you, like, you're living this every day. This isn't just in the news for you when something happens or another killing or when the police are involved, whatever it might be. This is something that you live every single day. And so with that, talk to us, if you would, what are some recommendations, some thoughts, because it's something that you've been leading the way with as well around social justice, whether it's for students in any regard. What advice do you have?
I'll share two pieces of advice. Number one, for anybody listening, courage. We have got to find the courage to take action. It's easy to talk about wanting to tackle social justice issues or systemic inequities, systemic racism. That's the easy part to say we want to, right? It takes courage as a leader, as a person, as an educator, to put some things in action to address some of the inequities and disparities that we're finding. So my first bit of advice is find the courage. Oftentimes we like to use the excuse that we don't know what to do or we don't know how to do it. Well, guess what, Tom? When blended learning first hit the scene in education, we didn't know how to do it. We didn't know much about it, but we found the courage to figure it out. No different than what we're tackling right now. So for the adults that are listening to this podcast, just please, take a look at yourself in the mirror, find the courage, and believe in yourself and what you're doing for kids. My second bit of advice is listen to your students, right? We're really passionate about the notion of we've got to stop giving students our platform as adults to amplify their voice. We need to start giving the students their platform that they need to amplify their voice. Our students are dealing with these social justice issues, and it is shaping their mind for the future and how they're going to approach and tackle life. We've got to make sure we give them the platforms that they want to really activate their voice so that they can inspire some true change around this whole topic.
So well said, and it doesn't get much more important than that, that's for sure. And thank you for continuing to keep that front and center, not just in Middletown City Schools, but in all your communications that I see across the state and even nationally as well. Finally, let me ask you this question. You are a beacon of hope in my mind. I don't think I've ever had a conversation with you where you've said we can't or we won't, it's just not possible. You are that beacon of hope to say we will find a way. So what is it that gives you hope right now, maybe in your district or nationally, in moving forward?
I'm going to stick with that theme of two right now. I'm going to save the best one for last. Colleagues, we've got superintendents and educators across this country and here locally in our district that are rallying together to take on the opportunity to reimagine how we support and inspire kids and serve kids. Folks like Baron Davis at Richland 2, folks like one of our good friends, Susan Enfield out in Seattle, I might go on and on and on, Julie Mitchell out in California, unbelievable leaders who truly have the right mind and desire and passion to do what's right for kids, truly reimagine the system so that we can give them better opportunities. More importantly, it's just students. There's a story in every student. I truly believe in the capacity of every single kid. I don't care who they are when they walk in the door. I had dreams when I was little. I know you have dreams. Probably we both still have dreams that we're still trying to make come true. Somebody did it for us. Somebody found a way to make things happen, to provide us opportunities to be successful in life. At the core of who I am, I believe that it's my responsibility, my duty to make sure no matter what the circumstances that I'm facing, I've got to figure out a way to discover some hope and find possibility to make sure a student can find their path to make their dreams come true. If you hold on to that every single time, keep students at the forefront of what you're doing and the reason why, that keyword why, there's happiness no matter what it is you're facing or what you're doing. Always hope, always possibility.
That's Marlon Styles, everybody, Superintendent of the Year. And if you've been listening to this podcast and you did not know Marlon, there is no surprise why. Marlon, it was awesome having you again, my good friend. Thank you for your leadership with Future Ready Schools, and keep leading the way.
Thanks, Tom. It's great to see you again, my friend.